This is going to be a complete beginner's guide to immersive engineering. This is the most up-to-date guide you will find on YouTube as well for the most modern versions of Minecraft. However, this will also be applicable for older versions. Starting off with immersive engineering, you're going to be finding ores buried in the ground, being lead, bauxite, nickel, silver, and uranium. And you're going to find these at a variety of different kind of the normal heights that you'd find normal ores. Generally all pretty much higher than diamond. The first thing you can make is the engineer's manual with a book and a lever. The engineer's manual has everything you need to know about immersive engineering, but you don't really need it because you've got me. So the first actual thing you're going to make is this here, the engineer's hammer, and also the engineer's wire cutters. You will need the hammer to actually complete the multi-blocks that we're going to be building, and it's also really useful at making plates out of ingots, something that's going to be used in a lot of immersive engineering recipes. There are also some alloys in immersive engineering, and these are things like electrum, I believe, there's a few others, and you will also need to actually smash your ores into grit, as you see here. If we look at gold grit, you can see with silver and gold grit, we make electrum grit, which we can smelt up into electrum ingots. And that's how you can actually make your alloys as well. For the wire cutters, we're going to be actually cutting our plates that we've made of the hammer and then turn that into wires, which is how we're going to basically transport electricity around and also use it in a variety of recipes. So one of the few things that you're going to make very early on is treated wood. So how do we make treated wood? You can see here I've got wooden storage crates and wooden barrels, where you can input things from the top, like using a hopper. And there's these wooden storage crates. Now, as you can see, I've put my engineer's screwdriver in here, another tool you can use to turn your machines around, etc. If I broke this wooden storage crate, the actual things inside it stay. So you can use this as a chest that you can stack on top of each other as well. And when you break them, the contents stay inside. So it's a really easy way, especially if you're actually in an adventure pack. You can use these to lug around lots of different items. You can have all different crates in your inventory full of loads of items. And another basic item is industrial hemp. Once these are fully grown, we can actually use them in a few things. Hemp rope coils, we can turn them into string, so it's actually a way of growing string using the Immersive Engineering mod. And we can also make it into tough fabric, which is used for insulating our wires, which we're going to use for transporting electricity, and lots of other things. But generally the things in here we're going to be covering in the intermediate video. So, first things first, how do we get or make treated wood? That is going to be in the coke oven. If I get my coke bricks here, which are made very simply, usually with clay, bricks, and sand in the middle, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. I'm then going to fill all of this in. And the important bit is I'm going to get my engineer's hammer and right-click the center, which is going to make this strange-looking hole, shall we say, in the middle. We can then right-click the coke oven and it opens up the inventory. One thing I want to let you know about immersive engineering, if you see a little blue icon like that, that means input, and the little orange one means output. I am simply going to put in here my coal, and you can put in blocks of coal. It will just take a lot longer. And slowly but surely, if you can see on the left-hand side, 8, 9, 10%, it does take a while. I would recommend making a few coke ovens if you can to make your treated wood. Eventually, what you're actually going to get in here, as you can see, is coal coke. And we can use that as an energy source, same as coal. But what you're going to get as a byproduct is creosote oil, as you can see here. And what we're going to do with that creosote oil, we can simply put a bucket in the top and it will output a bucket of creosote. And then to make the treated wood planks, or how we're going to make the treated wood in immersive engineering, is going to be getting a bucket of that creosote and just surrounding it with wooden planks. And that will make treated wood planks for you. And these treated wood planks are also going to be very, very useful for a myriad of different uses in immersive engineering that I'll be showing you shortly. Then, after you've been banging out your hammers into plates and then grit to make into alloys, maybe that's a bit boring. You're like, how can I automate this a bit more? Well, that's where we have the alloy kiln. You can see in here, I'm using blocks of coal to heat it, and I'm using silver and gold ingots to turn them straight into electrum ingots. What we can do with this one is simply go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, hit any part of it with our engineer's hammer, and then we have made the alloy kiln. You can see here we can make insulating glass, constant tan ingots with nickel and copper, and also silver and gold into electrum. You can't use the raw ores, you do need to use the ingots in the alloy kiln. Then we now have the crude blast furnace. And if you're wondering what does this do, well, this is how we make steel. So this is how we're going to get and make steel in immersive engineering. It's very simple. You're going to put iron. Well, actually, let me show you how to make it first. I am getting ahead of myself. So we're going to need some blast bricks. Again, generally very simple to make. You will generally need to go to the nether to get nether bricks and magma, though. And again, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then if you right-click the center with your engineer's hammer, ta-da, we have the crude blast furnace. In this one, you're going to put coal, again, in the bottom. No, that's a lie. We're going to put coal coke in the bottom. It must be coal coke in the blast furnace. And you can put iron ingots in the top. And that is how you make steel in immersive engineering. So this is actually going to make the steel in here for you. Now, this is quite slow, again, as you can see, and it cannot be automated. So what we can make is the advanced, or well, it's called improved, blast furnace. Now, it's actually simpler than it looks. You are going to need to make reinforced blast bricks, which is using a steel plate with blast bricks. So once you've made your first lot of steel ingots, what I would recommend is just getting your engineer's hammer and hammering the steel ingots that you've made in your crude blast furnace into steel plates. And then using those with the blast bricks you've already made. So just deconstruct once you've got 27 steel ingots or 27 steel plates. Then just break your blast furnace and pick up the blast bricks, add the steel plates to them to make reinforced blast bricks. And again, as you can see here, it's a free by 3 that we're going to put on here. And then we can also use these blast furnace preheaters to heat it up and make it go even faster. And these are quite simply made of some iron sheet metal, which is iron plates, an external heater, which again can be made of LV wire coils, if you're not sure how to make those. It's copper wire, again made from plates, etc., with the tools I've shown you. And that's pretty much it for these items. It's actually a lot less intimidating than it looks. And once you've then got all of those, we're again going to get our engineer's hammer and just right-click on the center unit. You are going to need to have to power these. What I've done here is I've just put some creative batteries on top, again, from Immersive Engineering. However, over here, I'm showing you how to do it properly. We can use an LV wire connector with our battery or wherever it's coming from. And this is how you connect wires, okay? We use an LV wire connector, and then we just right-click the wire like an LV wire coil from each one that you want to connect. So if I actually take these LV connectors, I put one on here and one on here, and I get my LV wire coil, low voltage, and I just right-click, and it's automatically going to put power into the preheater. Of course, you can use whatever mod you'd like to actually input power into here. And then you can see the fan will be going if I actually put some iron in here. You can see it here, it says here preheaters are on the left and right, and you can see the little fan going there because these are powered. There's also some smoke coming out the top. So you can put hoppers in the top, and you can input your coal coke and both your iron into the top here. And then out the back is where you're going to get your slag. This is another byproduct. You can see I've made some more here. Slag can be made into fertilizer or cooked up into slag glass, which you'll need for high voltage wire relays. You can use an extracting conveyor belt to pull out the slag from the back into a chest, and out the front you can use an extracting conveyor belt to output the steel ingots. And if you want to use the entire Immersive Engineering mod to automate this, that is how I would do it. If you're not sure about conveyor belts, don't worry, because here we go with conveyor belts. So there's lots of conveyor belts you can make, as you can see here, with Immersive Engineering. If I get a basic one, you can see when I place it on the floor, I can say which way do I want it to go. Do I want it to go that way? Do I want it to go that way? You know, this will just kind of go down that way. I can also use vertical ones, as you can see here. And if you get the engineer's hammer, I can just shift click, and that is actually how you make it vertical or not. Well, not vertical, but incline to go up to the next one. So if I place one here, you can see it's automatically going to connect as well. This is called a dropping conveyor belt. It's got a hatch in it, basically. So if I throw on this LV, whatever it's called, you can see, blop, it's disappeared. Oh my gosh, I've gone to another one. And that has gone into there. And that is with the dropping conveyor belt. There's a few we can use here. There's the vertical conveyor belt. Like if I put this on here, it's going to go up. And you can see it gets taken up vertically rather than at a slant. I have a splitting one. So I can put these kiln bricks on here, and it's going to split which way they go. So one that way, then one that way, then one that way, then one that way. An extracting conveyor belt does what you'd expect. It'll extract from the chest. So I can put this chest in here, and you can see it's then extracted out automatically. What else haven't I showed you in this little bit? Oh, yes. You can add dyes. So if I add white dye, well, it's not called white dye. Yes, it is. If I add white dye, I can just right-click it on these conveyors, just so you can see your production lines, etc. You can colour them. We've got the redstone controlled conveyor belt. You can see here, with the redstone controlled one, if I add redstone or not, it will stop and start the conveyor belt. And then there's these covered versions, which you can make for all types of conveyor belts in Immersive Engineering. Just, you can't stand on them. Like, I can accidentally pick that up, or I can accidentally fall onto the conveyor belt, and so can the animals. There's a sheep over there somewhere earlier. With these, you can't, so it's much easier to kind of get around them. If they're in your way, you can use these versions. And you can see here some of the covered versions as well. The other thing I want to show you is item routers. Oh my god, go away. Item routers here. It is quite simplistic how these will filter items. We have our input here with the extracting conveyor belt. So items are coming in from this chest. Creative accumulators. And then it's either coming out through the red side or the yellow side. East is yellow, red is north. Let's say I use my white dye, and I say I want it to go down this way, which is north. I'm going to just press that in there, left click it, so white dye is going north, okay? If I then put white dye in here, you're then going to see it will go north, because it has been filtered. If I then change that off and put it in east, it's then going to go through east instead. Did I do that right colour? Yes, there it is, all in there. And that's kind of how you use the item filters. And you can use tags. You can say, do I want to filter item based on their tags, their MBT data, or damage? And what damage does is it says, will I ignore armor and weapon damage, etc. or not? Tags can be like forge ores. So I could use tags, and it would use the tags from silver. So it'd be like all ores. Any different kind of ores would go through or not. So it's quite a simple sorting system for Immersive. The last thing I want to show you is these item silos and fluid tanks. They're very, very basic. You can input from the top, basically, and output at the bottom. Item silos, you can put in loads of items. I think it's like the equivalent of like 100 chests or something, 64 chests, something like that. And then fluid tanks here. It's very simple. It's 4 treated wood fences. And remember, I showed you how to make treated wood earlier. And then leave the inside hollow like that. So for these fluid ones, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 at the bottom, and total hollow interior. And for the item silos, it's 6, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 on the bottom, and again, you'll see it's a hollow interior apart from the very bottom, which is literally the ground and the top. And that's how you make item and fluid silos for Immersive Engineering. Just to recap then, we've looked at the ores we can get and the basic tools we're going to use. Oh, I've forgotten something. I forgot to show you the engineer's workbench and how we're going to use blueprints. So not time to recap yet. So this is the engineer's workbench, very easy to make. And you can see in here we've got different recipes and we've got blueprints. So there's a few different blueprints. Some, like patterns, I can make, or components. The components blueprint is made in a crafting table with iron, aluminum, copper, blue dye and some paper, and that will make you specifically a crafting components blueprint. Whereas if I want to make the common projectiles one, it's the same with the blue dye and the paper, but I'll use gunpowder and an empty casing. And I can put that blueprint in here, in this little slot on the left of my engineer's workbench, and then you can see the recipes that can be made with it. If I go into this one, you can see here, iron mechanical components, which if I press R for immersive for JEI, you can see here it needs iron plates and copper ingots. So I put in here iron plates and copper ingots. See, it goes grey, and if I put the resources in, it goes that. And I can just literally left click to pull out those recipes, and I can make a lot of different things. If I add in copper plates and Duraplast sheets, I can now make circuit backplanes. There's only 6 slots. I wish there was more. So if you do want to make lots of different things, you can see what they need here by hovering over them. Like a vacuum tube needs glass, nickel plates, copper wires, and redstone dust. If I put all of those items in there, then I could pull out vacuum tubes. And that is how we use blueprints. Some blueprints, like arc furnace electrodes, you can see here I can't get a recipe for. They can only be traded or found in dungeon chests, is usually how it is. But those are going to be quite useful recipes to use in a lot of the things we'll be covering in the intermediate part of this video. So we've got storage versions here. We've got wooden barrels and wooden storage crate. But there's also lanterns you can make. From Immersive, it's just a bit of glowstone, etc. And they're really nice looking. And there's also these posts as well. And what you can do with your engineer's hammer is right-click which side you want the post bit to come out. You can only have them coming out one at a time, but then you can put lanterns or you can put wires, etc. on top of those, and it can look really quite nice. So we've got our storage, we've got our ores, our basic tools, our hemp, how to make treated wood using coal, coal coke, and creosote. We've got how to use and make alloys, how to use and make the crude and improved blast furnace to make steel ingots, how to transport power a bit, but we're going to go through power all in the intermediate part, and then conveyors and logistics, and also some storage as well. If you have enjoyed this beginner guide for immersive engineering, make sure to check out, I'll put a link here to my intermediate guide playlist, well, the playlist for immersive engineering that will have the intermediate guide in. And in that, if I check my notes, we are going to have power generation, basic wiring and accumulators, the water wheel, the windmill, how to make thermoelectric power, the lightning rod, and biodiesel. And we're also going to go through tools, more advanced tools, and also simple machines like the metal press, the crusher, and lots of things like that. And I can give you a sneak peek. It's over that wall. So I will be covering everything there, and I will be doing an expert guide as well.